right, now, good morning to you. Peace and blessings. This is Rev Bruce. I'm coming at you on a Saturday morning. Hope everything's well. Hope you're doing well. God bless. You know, Barigani, what's the news? Jumbo. I'm still here in Black History Month celebrating it. And so I give you greetings. I send peace and blessings to you. I'm just trusting that God's made your day a better day today and that you're able to enjoy it. And we're here for coffee and chat with Rev Bruce. We've been going through some things this month, making sure that we've kept some things in order. And so last week we were talking about Kujichagulia. This week we are on something that is, definitely special. And when we look at it, it takes some idea to understand it a little better. That would be Ujima, which is the idea of collective work and responsibility. And today I'm really digging in. I'm going to talk about some things from Black history, some things that Dr. Kimbrough, Dennis Kimbrough, shares in one of his books, The Wealth Choice, Success Secrets of Black Millionaires, a book I started reading not too long ago, and already giving me nuggets, already giving me jewels, already talking about that broke mentality that gets so many people stuck at the starting gate. And so definitely share on that, share on a little bit about one of the richest Black communities we've ever known that was destroyed. That would be Tulsa, Oklahoma. That would be the folks of Black Wall Street. And to understand that a little bit more, we will be talking about what are some collective works that are being done this day and age that might be right under your nose that people are doing that are surprising and that are splendid. And so here we go. This is the schedule. All right, you got to look at that, get an understanding for it. That's what we're working with. That's how we're moving along. And next week we'll be talking about faith. And so as we go forward, I want you to understand that this is not just a time where we'll be talking about ideas. We'll be talking about notions. We'll actually be talking about the things that are at hand, some things that are going on in this country, some things that should be going on in your community. And so when we talk about, bringing folks together to do collective work, to have that collective responsibility, what we're talking about is Ujima, right? And that's to build and maintain our community together and make our brothers and sisters' problems our problems to solve them together. And when we talk about that, that can be anything from us working on the invasion of drugs in the community. That's working on rampant violence in the community. That's working on the black dollar escaping the community. That's working on improving our education systems. That's working on our churches working collectively beyond just being open on Sundays. That's us working towards collective solutions to community issues, right? And inheriting, right, the responsibility of I am my brother's keeper. I am doing that. And so let's be real about it. This is a principle that allowed for Tulsa, allowed for just outside of Tulsa in the communities, that, Greenwood, right, where they got the Gap Band from. I remember that. That was an amazing thing when you read about, Greenwood, Archer, and Pine, and that these brothers still came together decades later and created the Gap Band to represent that community that was destroyed in that raid. But they, according to the work that I was reading with Dr. Kimbrough, and I've studied this, but he brought out some other points that really resonated, that they had a high number of educated teachers teaching in a segregated school. Remember, this was a group of African Americans who were in a position to where they were second-class citizens. Jim Crow was still alive and kicking. They didn't have all the rights of their white counterparts. They didn't have the voting freedoms and things and protections under the law that a lot of folks experienced. And still, they, in their own community, were able to sustain and contain themselves up until this raid, which took place and was primarily people from outside. And let's be real. If you look at what happens in the early parts of the TV show Watchmen, you're just seeing the midst of the madness and it's centering on the chaos, but it's not getting to what that community was before. And so it gives you a glimpse, but it doesn't give you the idea that they had over 10 educated African Americans, college educated African Americans teaching students in segregated schools. Boom. I mean, I dare you to hit most of our major cities right now and find a single school that has 10 African American teachers, and then let me know what percentage of those teachers are black males. Let me know what percentage of those African American teachers are black males, because working in education myself, there are not many of us, and not many of us at the table means there's not many of us as models for our children in that realm. And so that was one aspect that they had businesses that bartered, traded, right, and worked on having items and their business contained to their community, to where they were able to control the dollars within their community was ages beyond what a lot of collective work has been in this day and age. And so they were living that vision. If you want to read more about it, you can definitely check out some pieces that are in the Historical Society regarding Tulsa. You get a lot about the massacre, not a lot about Black Wall Street itself. And so check out Black Wall Street, check out Dr. Kimbrough's work. He points it out in multiple books, even in, I believe in Think and Grow Rich, which I read a while ago. But definitely check out what it said about, Black Wall Street. And when we talk about Black Wall Street, we're talking about, yes, I said it, we're talking about the area where we get the Gap band from, which is Tulsa, right? And within that would be, what we're talking about, Greenwood, we're talking about Archer, and we're talking about Pine. And so think about that. That is significant in our history, that's significant in our music, that's significant in us remaining connected to a legacy that's come before us. And so that collective work, that collective responsibility, that we want to ensure that we manage and control the resources within our community, right? And how those resources flow in and flow out of our community. And that part is something that people find as a stumbling block, but I guarantee you there are opportunities in most communities for African Americans to have a different type of position. If I dare you to go back and check out when I interviewed Terry Wilson. Terry Wilson, who was a Democratic representative out of Missouri this year for the Democratic Convention, and when he shared that not only is he on the city council, he used to be on the school board, but then his mama is the mayor. I mean, come on, there ain't too much more than that for involvement, right, in the community when you got like a full family working on the whole thing to make sure that your community is taking care of business. That's part of it right there. I in college, I visited Tuskegee with my roommate who was from there, and Tuskegee, a black town centered around a black college. Come on, it still happens. People still live in black communities, but for the most part, most of us don't see a black community other than a section of a major city or town. We don't see it as just a city, and it's totally being as George Clinton said back in the day, a chocolate city. And so let's take this a little further. When we talk about this idea of Ujima, we have to ask ourselves, what are we building together? What are we building together? What are we building together as a group? What are we putting our energy and efforts behind in order to support? What are we putting our dollars behind in order to invest in and create a legacy? That's how we begin to step forward and answer the questions about what happened before us and what's to come on beyond us, because in our space and time, are we in a position to create a legacy? Are we in a position to break the cycle of the broke mentality? And I say that because there's an issue when we talk about mentality. Mentality is so powerful. I've just finished reading, I believe it was Jeff Keller, Attitude is Everything. Attitude is everything. And so attitude is everything. That mentality, that broke mentality can get so far in the way, right? That broke mentality can get so far in the way that it can not only cause us to doubt ourselves, but it can also cause us to downplay what we know we have already as God-given talent, gifts, skills, things that we have done and have accomplished. We still will downplay them because of that broke mentality of, well, I ain't meant to do whatever. Listen, child of God, you better get on this right now. You are meant to do more than you believe. In fact, as we get into this, there are some things that you are meant to do just to have the mindset to do them and accomplish them. And so let's break that cycle, man. Let's get out of that idea of the broke mentality and what it is. And if we come into the circle with the right mentality, with the right attitude, then we'll be able to embrace, who God made us to be, and I am sure, that we will, that we will be better off, and we will do a whole lot better day by day if we truly embrace who God told us we should be. For my people out there on Twitch, listen to this. This is about how beyond the marching, beyond the demonstrations, there are two things that create and make a difference in community action. One is policy. That is the collective work that you may start with a petition on change.org, right? That you may start with a piece of work that you do as a manifesto of, okay, here's what we want for our community, right? That's policy. And then beyond policy, right, is practice, right? Do you put certain principles into practice? Do you put certain beliefs into practice, and so that those practices become a norm for you and your community, and that's how you're able to build up and work together as a community and sustain that. And so you do it with policy and you do it with practices. And beyond that, that is part of the groundwork, right? That's part of the groundwork for how you set this up. And so, like I said, that comes about through policy, right? And that comes about through practices. And so if you work on both ends, policy and practices, if you have your petitions, you have your people, your street soldiers out there, stomping the pavement, getting the people to sign the petitions, getting people aware of what's going on. Why is this a problem? Why is this an issue? What do we need to do together? How can we work together, right? And then you have the people that put it into practice. You have the Black Panthers with the breakfast program. You have the Black Panthers and other SNCC with the Freedom School. You have other people putting in programs that work and help people. You've got the math project, the algebra project. You've got all these different programs that are working for people, and so let those come together and build up and help people solve their problems. All right. You will see that there's a difference when you approach it from more than just one front, right? And you incorporate and include the gifts and abilities and resources that others can also lend to the work. And so let's break this broke mentality. Let's see, what can we build together? What can we do together? And when I say that, I want to say that part of our work is tied to, just like this principle, collective work and responsibility, the collective responsibility of we are our brother's keepers. Let's shake also the us versus them mentality, right? That is the ideal, the ideology, the outlook, right? That we're at war with somebody when what we need to do is we need to work with a whole bunch of the somebodies that we say we're at war with. We don't need to be at war with the gangs. I can break it down to you later on about the establishment of gangs and why gangs are connected to communities, more so than some folks would even see themselves connected to a community. Gangs are more connected to communities and parks and streets and the whole idea of territory and protecting that territory from outsiders and invaders. And that is where that comes from. And so some people have the wrong idea that gangs are just terrorists. And that ain't that never was the intent, right? And so come back to it and look at the connection between those who are those community protectors, those who are the Black Panthers, those who are, your brown and angels and green berets and brown berets, those people that are there in your community, who are members of your community, who are in community groups trying to work on protecting your community. And that's one way we look at the collective responsibility of community. And so let's get rid of the us versus them mentality. Let's get rid of the us versus those drug addicts, us versus those poor people, us versus those people coming from prison. If we're really taking responsibility for our brothers and sisters, then we're taking care and creating a space for them to come home from rehab or rehabilitation and actually get back into the flow and contribute by creating a space for them to work and get back on their feet, right? And what we do, right, it goes back to policy and practice. They can't violate parole, but what we can do is provide for them space, right, by which they're able to do what they need to do, by which we're able to provide what we can provide and support where we can support, right? Resources, that's what we can do. Information, that's what we can do. Education, that's what we can do, right? There are different things that we can supply our brothers and sisters along the way that we can get them moving along into a more productive position as they come home from prison, right? And so I really want to get into the work of Dr. Kimbrough, Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, probably one of the most prolific voices on Black wealth and Black wealth development. First book I read by him was Think and Grow Rich from a Black perspective, or a Black choice. And that just was like, wow, okay. He broke down a lot of things. And he's a professor at Clark Atlanta University. And this book, The Wealth Choice, Dr. Kimbrough did a 7-year study, and he broke down some things that we need to look at as far as poverty, and one of the things that he says is that there are African Americans who don't save anything at all. Don't save $1, don't save a dime, don't save a nickel, don't save anything at all. And believe it or not, there are 24% of African Americans who spend more than their income, right? Oh my God. And then check this out. Approximately 35% of African Americans had no wealth or were in debt in 2009. There we go. That's part of the problem. And we got to work on that, all of us, that we're wealth poor, that we will earn far less than someone else who is in the market for a Jaguar or a Mercedes, and we will stretch ourselves budget-wise to buy that car, that status symbol, when the average person who owns that car makes 3 times as much as us. Here goes this, and then I'm going to let it go. It says, nearly 1/3 of white households own a 401k or a thrift savings account, compared with less than 1/5, right, of African American households. Moreover, white households are more likely to own stocks and mutual funds, 31.9%, as IRA or key-off accounts, 27.5%. 10% or less of African Americans own these assets, and their median value is $8,000, which is far below the whites, which averages $20,000. So you can see right there that part of what he's saying is that the difference is, in one degree, how we manage it. The difference in one degree is how we manage our dollars. And he didn't say that African Americans aren't making dollars, right? He didn't say African Americans aren't employed and that, they lack the ability to acquire funds by which to spend money, the ability by which to build credit and use credit. What he did say is that basically in managing our money, we're behind others. And usually in comparison, in these wealth comparisons, you're compared to whites. I just saw a comparison on Yahoo Finance about, of all things, the cannabis industry. And in the cannabis industry, there are minorities, Asians, African Americans, Latinos, who are complaining because whites have the predominant business, of cannabis to a limited number of minorities. And so whites have over 80% of the industry, and these other minorities, about 4 or 5 groups, are they have less than 20% of their business. And that's an industry, that's an up-and-coming industry That'd be the same if we were talking about cryptocurrency or anything like that. And so what is it that is hindering people? What is it that's getting in the way? And it just bothers me that we still say we don't have the opportunity. The opportunity is there. We may not have all the information, we may not have all of we may not have all of the opportunities, but we do have an opportunity to get started and break in. And it's just, man, it's troubling, man. That here we go. It's all right there, and there are shifts. We know there are shifts to solar. We know there are shifts to space travel and all this other stuff, and we're still trying to figure out how we're gonna get to and fro. Because of conditions that we've grown accustomed to living under for our days. Let me take you to one thing that Dr. Kimbrough says here, where he says there are this is how you win the war, right? This is about winning the war on poverty. And it's a trip because Dr. Kimbrough, he not faking it. He's throwing a little bit of faith there. He throws in a little bit of, you gotta call on the Lord, right? He throws a little bit of it in there, and let's trust and believe that this he knows what he's talking about. He's been doing this for years, and he's studied these folks for 7 years just in this one aspect. And what Dr. Kimbrough says here in How to Win the War on Poverty, he gives a couple of bullet points. He says, one, you got to be an optimist. You need to be an optimist, right? You need to be an optimist. You need to come out here with a win-win mentality. Come out there and let your desire lead you, and success occurs by choice, not by chance. That's what he says, right? Then he says, we've been blessed by a mighty God who has a gentle heart. If this were not so, you and I would have been gone a long time ago, right? Because we would have mishandled what God gave us, and God would have said, not only am I going to snatch that out of your hands, but I'm going to snatch you up, right? And he says, God exists within each of us. So we all share a common humanity. Love yourself, whatever faults you possess, and love the world no matter how bad it seems. Be grateful, not for the hardship, but for the character it built in you, right? You can still come from humble means and still have a great story, right? He talks about manhood, that manhood is earned, right? And that the greatest strength is the power of your example. Be a strong person and show that powerful example to other people, right? Prayer, it's the language of the heart, he says, is the center of the humble life. Fear not, never stop believing, never stop dreaming. Amen. That sound like an echo. God help me today, right? And so this is what it is. He said, abundance is your destiny. Rid yourself of the poverty mentality. Money goes wherever it is welcomed. Imagine that. So this is still coming from him, and I still got some more pieces coming from him, but that's just his notion on how to win the war against poverty. So let me slide this thing in right here. This is one of the premier voices on Black Wealth. And he's doing this and sharing this. He talked to T.D. Jakes. He talked to Earl Graves. He talked to Spike Lee, right? He talked to individuals right here. Herman Cain, who passed recently. Steve Harvey, Bob Johnson. Did I mention Tyrese Gibson? Okay. And so these were individuals that he gathered data from over an extended period of time to find out, okay, how did they figure it out? Because they all weren't born rich. They all didn't just get rich quick either. And some, as they developed, had to learn from making mistakes even in this. And so this is, like I said, this is a book, The Wealth Choice, by Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. Check it out. Definitely has some nuggets in it. And let me give you a little bit of what he says as we talk about these driving factors for the wealth choice. He says in his book, The Wealth Choice, he talks about 9 driving forces, right? And, they can help you take a methodical and logical approach to achieving wealth and success, right? He's just going to talk about 7 here, right? And so it breaks down like this. I got about 2 per slide, right? Driver 1, life, survival, and achievement, right? Life, survival, and achievement, right? These are, how you view it. Is it survival or is it achievement? Are you trying to just make it and get by, or are you trying to accomplish something, right? And so there's a difference between that, right? Deviating goals, right? Driver 2 is the family unit. Is it matriarchal or patriarchal and legacy, right? Are you doing come what may and check by check, or are you doing something with a budget and a plan and an idea of what you're saving for and where you're going with some money, right? And those ideas, right, are simply part of it. How is your family set up? What's your upbringing and your background? Your education, are you K through 12 and that's it? And a lifelong, or are you a lifelong learner? Are you someone that's continuously reading and feeding your mind, right? And yeah, I'm a book reader. I'm a podcast listener. I'm a YouTube watcher. I'm about a newspaper for the first time in months, a Wall Street Journal the other day, because, everything you're going to get is not going to be in a 3-minute snapshot on, CNN. You won't get the full story. When you read the full story on this crazy thing going on in Texas with the weather and these companies that were supposed to be on the grid and supplying heat and all this stuff to these families, millions of people are freezing to death, and folks just, hey, well, I guess they act like it's not happening. We're back to Flint. We're back to people being, indispensable. And read the full story in the Wall Street Journal. You'll be surprised what you'll learn about the business practices. When we talk about profit over people, this is crazy. And so, are you a lifelong learner? When and how are you feeding your mind? Money itself is a driver. Do you act rich or act poor? Right? And there's a spin on that, right? Because acting rich goes back to that whole idea of buying that Mercedes when you really should have bought, that Toyota Camry, or that Kia, You weren't in the market for the Mercedes, but you stretched yourself to get it because, it looked good in there. I told you, I test drove that Lexus. That Lexus felt good, looked good. And I mean, man, I was, but man, I just couldn't see paying $10,000, $12,000 more for the same car as a Toyota Avalon, and I bought the Avalon. And so, come on, that's what it is. You like the Audi, buy the Volkswagen. It's the same car, right? And just cheaper, maybe not the leather, maybe the different features, but, get the top end Volkswagen if you like the Audi. I mean, come on. That's what's happening. So examine what money means to you. Whatever you believe today most likely reflects your current state today, right? So just examine what money means to you and how you handle it and all that other stuff. And if you act poor, you can understand how people live off of 70 and 60% of their income, right? That's not a miracle. Work. Do you feel like work is a necessary evil, or there's a life work that you love to do, right? Work is more than just your slave, um, and what people say, I gotta go in there and get my, get it home because you gotta do what you gotta do, or is it something that you enjoy and gives you opportunity to build and to excel? And so that's the other driver. Driver 6, time. Are you present to the past, or are you looking at the future? Where are you at with time? Time is a commodity that we're not always managing well. It's a commodity that's always dwindling. It's a commodity that we never can regain. And so how we look at time and how we operate within the span of time, and our perspective on it lets us know how we can work on ourselves and work together jointly on being better with working as a community. Relationships, social networking, lean on your network. That's a main driver, right? Push yourself out of your comfort zone and remember that networking is indeed a key to financial success. Jim Rohn said it like this: becoming a millionaire is not that difficult. It is not the most important thing. The most important aspect of becoming a millionaire is the person that you become in order to accumulate $1 million in the first place. It's about the person you become. It's about the person you become. And what does that look like? And so I take you back to the definition of what we're talking about here, Ujima. I take you back to this definition and what does it mean to come together collectively and work as a society. Dahan Blevins, who's been on this show before, he shared something on Facebook that took me back several years to a time here in San Diego when we worked on Market Creek Plaza, for it being going from an empty lot to taking community input, taking people through the development process, taking people through the city's 2020 plan. Do you know that's a thing in most municipalities, that 2020 plan, where 20 years out from today, what will it look like? What will the design of your community look like 20 years out from today, right? And that thing needs to be on docket with the city. And folks didn't know that. Folks been living in the community for ages. We had no idea about that. That was when I first learned, other than in sociology class, about gentrification, about folks being put out because the community got so developed so well that they couldn't afford to live in a community that they helped build up. And so the whole idea of combating gentrification with what was developed there. And part of it that really struck a nerve with Dahan bringing it up was that others who weren't present when the work was being done, when many of us were being recruited as community consultants and all these other different things to bring information and to bring community members together and to have them work with this entity that was for neighborhood innovation. Many people who weren't at the table, who weren't even on the scene, now say there was no financial literacy going on right there. That's BS. There was an investment club. There were those that talked about savings. One of the minimum factors for the bank that would be instituted in that community bank, Wells Fargo, was that individuals could get bank accounts that they couldn't traditionally get bank accounts. And so, to be honest, I ain't gonna lie, that's why I still have a Wells Fargo account now. It ain't because of anything other than that. That's why I got a Wells Fargo account, because of what they did in my community. And so that was part of the win-win, part of the collective work. And so as you work together with folks, you need to document and track it, because if you rely on the other folks who are at the table to document it, it's going to pass by and pass away, because other individuals will not value some of the work that you do. Other individuals will not value some of the education you provide. Other individuals will not value it. And so if you value it, you need to document it, right? You know, if you don't document it, it's like it didn't happen. You know what I mean? If you don't document it, I'm putting it down here, it's just like it didn't happen. It's sad to say, go on your job and help everybody out and help them reboot their computers and do all that stuff, like you, the IT professional that that's working on the job and everything else, and somebody say, oh, well, Bruce, I don't know what he does around here. He's not helpful for me. Oh, Bruce, no. Does he still work here? You know, so you need to document that. Well, I spent 2 hours helping, Regina fix her computer. I had to spend another 3 hours, showing Raul how to get online. And Becca, she was in the bathroom so long, I stopped. After I got her laptop rebooted, I just stopped and went back to doing what I had to do on Zoom. Keep it real and document what you do. Even if they don't ask for it, document it, supply it, and provide it so that someone is always aware that you are in the trenches and doing something beyond just showing up, clocking in, and getting back to us working together. If you document it, there is a trail, a paper trail. There's history of it. I'm not saying they're going to put a shrine up in the library and it'll be part of the artifacts, but who knows? It may be one day, because someone will look back and say, man, I heard these folks did this amazing work together. And what we did with Market Creek is amazing work. It's the same type of work that people did in DC, buying a laundromat and then expanding from there and creating services and spaces where resident-owned and resident-led activity could take place, and people would have economic ownership, right, in their own community. That was in D.C. Look what they did in Boston in the Triangle, and look at all these other communities where you see these articles in the Griot and other publications where people are sharing that, hey, these people, put their money together. These black folks bought a town in Georgia. These folks put their money together and bought plots of land, and now they're doing collective urban farming, right? What's unbelievable about that? People have been doing that in partnership. People form business partnerships. People form LLCs. People form trusts. People form foundations. People form charities, and they do that in partnership. They do that together with others. We just need to get out of the mentality that, I don't do that. I don't do business with other black folks. Get out of that mentality. Get out of that mentality that you can't trust somebody that looks like you. What does that say about how you look at yourself, how you look at your own people? And so get out of that mentality. What are we really doing? What are we building together, right? Let's do this, man. Let's stop tearing each other apart, right? This straight up. Black folks, come on. Let's stop tearing each other apart. Let's build each other up. And let's build things together. Right? We can do this. It's like I said, people put money together, buy plots of land, put a garden on there until they figure out what they want to develop on the land. That's still creating opportunity for the community to grow. Listen, I spent a lot of time I spent a lot of time in another part of my life tearing up community. I spent a whole lot of time tearing up community, ripping and running streets, doing wrong, doing people wrong. And the best I can do is build community now in what I do for my livelihood, what I do for, my ministry. And that's where my heart is. Because if you've truly been convicted from where you once were as a believer, then you'll want to go back and patch up and repair the damage that you've done in those areas of your life. And so here it is. You have opportunity to make more out of it than what you left behind. You have opportunity to create a greater legacy than the negative footprints you left behind. And so I want to tell somebody, you might have gone to jail, you might have served your time, and got hit with it, brick by brick, and you pulled, you pulled them years, you pulled that time, and so now that you've done it, what are you doing? Now that you've done it, what are you doing? Now that you've been there, what are you doing? Think about it. There's a lot of folks, that get out there, get out the pen, get off the yard, and they start reeling back to when they were 14, 15, even 17, and, start popping off and doing all the same stuff like they want these youngsters out here and they need to do and prove something. And, bro, you already did a stretch. What are you going to do with the rest of your life, and how are you going to show that example to get that thing built up to where you don't have to tuck a 45 in your belt. You don't have to look over your shoulder. You don't have to be worried about headlights coming up the street all the time. And so here it is. If we stop tearing each other apart and learn to build each other up, we can build some things together. We can build some things together. We can get some answers for, this suicides. We can get some answers for this depression. We can get some answers for folks and the substance abuse. We can get some answers for a lot of the stuff that's still plaguing us that we haven't looked at in supporting each other with. We can deal with this poverty. This poverty is simple to deal with. We just got to put it in the pot. We just got to put the work in the pot. We got to put the time in the pot. We got to put the other stuff aside that doesn't fit there, that doesn't go there, and doesn't keep it positive. And then as we do that, we stir it up, and good things come out of what we stir up. So listen, y'all, this is what I'm talking about. You want Black History Month? I'm giving you Black History Month. Make a legacy. Take what's already out there. Make a legacy. Build something up. Be different. Create a community that can thrive and do things. And, how are we going to do it? We got to get rid of this us versus them mentality. We got to do that. And so trust and believe. This is where I'm coming from. I'm going to put some resources in the description on the YouTube channel later today. Check back tomorrow. Resources on Dr. Kimbrough's books, links, other information, some stuff I shared with some people I work with on, financial literacy. But we need to do this now. Otherwise, when we look up, it doesn't matter if Biden's in office or not, and we got some Democrats smiling and saying, "Hey, we're here for you." That don't matter, man. We need to still build our local communities based upon what our agenda is for our local communities. You heard Clovis, Honore, and I talk about that before. This is truth. The truth is nobody in D.C. is going to look out for your community as well as you are, and ask somebody in D.C. how that is, as folks are in the Capitol and meeting and doing certain things, but not even looking out the window to see how it's going on in the district. So let's be mindful, man. This is within our power. This is our collective responsibility. And this is what we're doing. I'm talking about faith next week. I'm talking about faith in the Black community throughout Black history next week. Somebody going to get hit. Somebody going to get offended next week because it might not be how you thought it always was when it comes to Black history. And so we're going to be talking about the Coptic Church. We're going to be talking about, the missionaries of Paul and Mark, John Mark, and some of those that went into Africa. We're going to be talking about that. The whole idea of how enslaved Africans identified with, the children of Israel. That's right, Jewish people, right? And how that was with them coming out of Egypt and being enslaved in Egypt, and now enslavement in America versus Africa. And so let's take this in the heart. Faith within the Black community has a lot of different looks to it, because faith within the Black community can be Catholic, can be Santeria, it could be Muslim, it could be Hebrew, it could be something else. But at the end of the day, what we want to say is we can be at peace, we can coexist, and most of all, based upon today, we can work together. God bless. Be good. Much love to you. Amen.